All right, here we're going to look at making a print file for this particular, any file in InDesign that you have. So I have this little 8-page booklet I'm going to make, and I'm just going to show you a few different options that we could do to print this file. And just really quickly to look at a couple things before we say, yeah, let's print it and make sure there's no issues with it. You could overlook some things. Give it a quick overview, a quick scan of some of the issues that you might find. You know, like your spelling. So maybe you want to do a Command I or check spelling and check your spelling. And just kind of go through the document or all documents or the story or just a selection. You might want to do that. It's always a good idea. Obviously, we could right click and say that as well too. Go to your spelling and check your spelling. That's Command I. You can also double check your swatch panel. Make sure all the colors are the way they're supposed to be. If there's any Pantones, make sure the Pantones are correct. Make sure there's no RGB colors. Make sure everything is CMYK and everything is processed. That's great. If that's your most common way that we're going to do that, and that's the way you wanted to set this up. There is one other thing to look at before even creating a document, a PDF, printing something, whatever you want to do. Is down here there's an error panel, and this error panel, or this little area, shows you like the pre-flight of what would happen if there's any issues currently that InDesign sees with the file. And currently, yes, it does. So what I did, I double clicked on this, and it shows me the pre-flight. And it shows me, yes, you have an error. In the area, you have one error, and it's showing you that you have overset text on a text frame on page 6. So I go to page, click on it, and it shows me, yes, I do. I have overset text. So that means that there's text. It's there, but it just can't be seen because the text frame is not big enough. So the little plus sign shows that to me. So now what I can do, I can just make that bigger. And now I can say, yeah, so the error is gone, and now I'm good to go. So I can make a proper PDF or print it properly, which is what I'm about to do. So I have that. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Print. And just look at some basic things here. So if I had a print preset, I could use it, but I'm just going to set my current home printer to this. So the idea behind this is not to print something and it's going to be used professionally, but maybe to give yourself a proof so you can double check layout, colors. Not that colors are going to be great because it might print off on a different printer a little bit differently, but ideally it gives you an idea of how big things are, how small things are, and your general layout. But obviously you can print things off at home and cut them up and use them for whatever you want, of course. But this is just a general idea how to do that. Number one, copies. How many copies of this do you want? Great. You can say I want 2 or 3, 23, doesn't really matter. Do you want to collate it? So this is a book, so it's going to collate it properly. So when I print them off and I cut them up, I can actually make a little booklet, but that's not the case. Or reverse order, not necessary. How many of the pages do you want printed? You can say all, or you can give it a range. I say, you know, I only want 1 to 4 printed. Or I only want 1 to 4 and page 6 too. And that's how you would show it. You would give 1 and a hyphen, potentially to suggest 1 to something, or you could do commas, say 1 and 3, and I want 7 printed. And that's how you would separate that too, just to say I want specific pages. Now, if I am on the current page, I can click on current page, and I see down here the current page is page 6. And also I can see page 6 and 7 are selected, but maybe here it'll only be page 6. I can say current page, and it shows me, yes, only page 6, but I could also put that up there, page 6 only. All pages, do I want all pages? Do I want even pages only or odd pages only? It gives me that option. Do I want the page, individual page, or do I want it set up as a spread? So the spread, because this is a booklet, it would actually show the whole spread. So this side and this side together, and you can see that in the little diagram here. But normally I would say I want to set it as pages, and that's fine. All the other things here, we don't really use too much currently in our situation here. So I'm just going to continue on. And I'll go to setup. And now I can say, okay, how do I want this set up? Do I want to print it on 8.5 by 11? Do I want it printed on something else? Do I have a different type of paper in my printer? A legal paper, a tabloid? Do I have whatever I have there specific to that? So I can define that there. The orientation, how do I want that oriented? And I'll just say normal for now. The scale, do I actually want this to be printed up a little bit bigger? Or do I just say 100% is fine? Or actually, you know what? I only need it a little bit. I just want to get a sense of the layout. It totally depends. Or if you want to fit more things up there, just as if I was going to put on pages or spreads. Sorry, I could say the setup. And well, you know what? I want this to really fit on there, so maybe I need to dumb it down to say 50%. So I could put that up there. Cool. Scale to fit, so I could scale it so this will fit properly, exactly the best way it can without going over the page, obviously, but keeping a nice little border there as well, which is totally fine. The page positioning, if I want it to be centered or upper left, or however these options are given to me here. But usually it's upper left. And I can do that too, but I'm just going to shut that off to give myself these other options here. So once again, scale to fit, I can scale to fit the actual page, or just keep my current scale or the actual size, which that would be my actual size of 100%. And then we could look at that in other ways to lay that out on the page, however we want to do that. If I'm going to cut something, or if I just want to look at it, maybe these options might help you. The last one we want to look at are the different printer marks you might want to put on this. So I'm going to put this on the center. And I'm going to scale it down just a bit just to show you this. And I'm going to show, do I want to put my printer marks on here? Do I want to see what my printer marks look like? Maybe there's a good reason to do that, because maybe you can put your crop marks on and it'll show you if your bleed is set up properly. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. And this is always a good way to help you look at that. Do I want to set up my bleed marks? Now it's nice to show you in the diagram what's actually being set up here. Registration marks, color bars, and page information, which normally I don't ask for. I don't ask for any of those, I just want the crop marks. The pink line around there is actually your document bleed. So if you don't want to show the bleed, you don't have to have the bleed on. But if you do want to show the bleed, just so you can tell if it's set up properly, you don't have to extend anything else to the bleed, maybe something sitting on the paper edge where it shouldn't be. This might help you. And that's the great idea about printing things, is to give you an idea of the proof if it's ready to go. If I'm about to print off thousands of these and send it to a printer properly, I might need to have a proof done to make sure it's done well. I don't want to waste time, waste money. And obviously a printer, a proper print shop, can also provide you a proof, a digital proof, that is very close to the color and very close to everything. And that would give you a good idea too. But it's always nice to be able to print something at home or in an office and get a sense of what you're printing. The output option here, we don't really look at. Graphics as well. Certain color management options you might want to look into depending on your printer profile, but generally it's set up, InDesign sets it up for you. Advanced features we don't really look at. In the summary, the general summary just gives you everything there. So really, I could say I'm good to go. I'm just going to print it. I can save the preset. I could say, set up my printer or choose a different printer. The page setup, I can go to page setup and say, no, I want it to be a little bit different. It's this particular printer I'm using right now. And how do I want it set up? So right now, this particular file is a 14 by 7. How will it fit properly? Do I want to even look at this really? Or I'm fine with what I have right now, which is totally fine. So you can set up the page, change it up here. You can change the printer and play around with the different printer aspects, but each printer is going to be a little bit different, showing you different things. But these are generally the presets we look at. How many copies, and like some of those things are already in here, but it's always good to look at, like how good you want the quality to be. Your layout, how the layout's going to be. Is it going to be tiled? Is it going to be printed this way? Paper handling, how, once again, odds and evens, which you have in the other dialog box here. Cover, is there going to be a cover page? All these different options you have, which some of them you're probably not going to use, but for the most part, even two-sided is a good option. If you don't want the color, you just want to print it black and white, you can do that too under your printer settings, which is fine. And you can even save this particular preset and use it over and over and over, which it would come up here. But for the most part, we would just click on print and it would print properly. So this is the diagram that shows you more or less what you're going to see, how it's going to print. But let's agree, there's always some issues with printing. There's never perfect, but more often than not, we can agree that this will help us understand what we're going to see. And if we have to make any fine-tuning or adjustments, we can under some of these options here, page setup or on the printer.